So like I mentioned with the CCPD, um, we can help in a variety of ways. So we love to meet with freshman students as well. We're doing a lot of career fair prep right now. Um, So, and all those other things that I mentioned. We also have hiring stats from alums. So, if you go on our website, there's something called hiring statistics, which is where I got some of the salary information for tonight and also common employers as well. So, um, as you'll see here, we have some employer examples. So, these are examples of where our 2018 students went for full time opportunities. These places typically also have internships, so you'll see a wide variety with environmental from consulting opportunities to government, local. There's also state, I don't have it here, but federal, definitely. There were more on the list. If you go to our website, I just wanted to highlight a few here. And then as you'll see, there are a bunch of that's a typo, sorry about that. So there are a bunch of opportunities listed on Handshake. I just pulled a few. You'll see some different internships like uh, this EPA environmental modeling internship, this agroecosystem sustainability internship with the USDA, um, and then you'll see EnviroSpec environmental engineers. It's more of a consulting, and then water wastewater design engineer with JMT. All different locations, all over the country, and this one's precision cast parts, so that's not is similar to EPA or USDA, but that's a company that a manufacturing company, but that also looks for or has environmental engineers to make sure and oversee health and safety of their products as well. So and the environment. As you'll see here, that we have salary statistics. These are again from class of 2018. So what we do is we do a survey of seniors who are graduating, and we can not me, but someone in our office compiles these statistics. So we don't get answers from every senior. We do get a good amount. I don't know the percentage offhand, but it's a helpful thing. So something to take into account when looking at this is, it does depend on your location a little bit. There isn't a huge range right here, but if you're closer, for instance, to New York City, you probably will get paid more just because the cost of living is so much higher. Um, so this is something that's helpful to look at when you're considering a career and also when you're negotiating salary for, your positions a few years down the road. And then here on bls.gov, which is a great resource for students to look at just to find out about careers, things like that. You'll see the median pay is 88, so it's higher because this is from environmental engineers at all levels of their career, whereas here it was entry level positions, so students just graduating. Um, like we don't do just the hiring statistics. We do all of these different things. We can help with self-assessment. There's something called Focus 2. Um, that's a really good sort of skills assessment thing. Can discuss that with you, grad school applications, etc. So, oh, sorry, that is my colleague, but I'll put my um, my email here in the chat. And then if anyone has any questions, feel free to write them in the chat or say them out loud too.
Yes, this is a great time for a little Q&A with Lindsay. So I think if you're feeling brave, by all means, you can unmute yourself to ask a question. If you're a little shy, we have the chat room for that too, where you can message me privately anytime during tonight, or if you just want to ask the group. And for those of you who already know, you will be getting Lindsay's email tomorrow too. So if all this information sinks in tonight and you realize Lindsay's the best person to help you get on track, well, you'll be able to connect with her. So lots of good ways to get in touch with Lindsay. So we'll give you guys a couple minutes to ask your questions for the Career Center. And also keep in mind there is a career fair coming up. Lindsay, when is that career fair?
Yes, so that career fair is this Friday and Saturday, the 25th and the 26th. It's run by Nesby and Shep, so completely student run, which is really cool. We do a lot, so we're doing, we do a lot of career fair prep right now. This week we're doing a lot of resume review. We have all day walk-ins on Wednesday, and then walk-ins 2 hours every other day of the week. And we're doing a bunch of workshops as well in preparation for this that are on Handshake. So we can help with your pitch, anything like that. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to just to talk to employers to find out more about different careers. And if any of you are freshmen, if you go to I think it's just rpicareerfair.org. So they're the Nesby and Chef's sort of main website for the career fair. Um, they list all the employers and they also list the year that they're looking for. So, sophomore, freshman, etc. So I find that super helpful as well.
So, Lindsay, not to totally monopolize your question time, but for I it is my assumption that most of the students in the room are first year students. Which you guys can type yes or no in the chat to let us know. But I do believe it's going to be predominantly first years. So for those students, maybe they're hearing about the career fair the first time right now. Maybe they were thinking that they probably are not ready to be involved with a career fair. If they want to give it a test run, first of all, can you tell us why they should give it a test run? And second of all, um, can you explain the walk-ins a little bit, just in case anyone wants to get their resume updated for the day?
Yes, definitely. So yeah, for the walk-ins, I will, so I think many of you have signed up for Handshake, but you can correct. Yeah, you could put in the chat if you are not sure how to do that. So Handshake is where we have our like the times and the WebEx rooms for our walk-ins. So you'll see that under events. So if you go to events, you'll see, for instance, Tuesday walk-ins, which actually I do. So those are tomorrow, 2 to 4, and you'll see my WebEx room for that. So the way those work is you can show up anytime between 2 and 4. It depends how busy it is, you might have to wait a little bit. Typically, walk-ins are 5 to 10 minutes. It depends how many students are waiting. They're good, they're really good for a resume review. I'd say a full appointment is good for things like career exploration or doing a more in-depth resume review. You'll see all day on Wednesday, we have the all day walk in. So each of us is covering 2 hours. So if you click on that in the Handshake events, you'll just see which WebEx room to join depending on the time you're going to join. So yeah, if anyone has questions about Handshake, you can definitely message me and I can send you the link to sign up. And then for the career fair, so first years, yes. So I always encourage first year, or we always encourage first years to go. It's a little different with virtual. We still encourage. So when you're in person, you can walk up to really any table and just, get information. So if you see a table that's empty, you can walk up and, talk to someone there. So with the virtual, it's a little bit different. Um, and I did a workshop on this for first year, so I can always send that to Kristen and so you all can have it. But so you'll, enter into a chat. You might have to wait for a little bit. Um, there might be certain criteria, but if you look on that website that I put in, you'll see that there are a bunch of companies looking for freshmen. So, for internships. So, number one, that's definitely valuable. And there are some that aren't, but it really depends. You might, some companies just don't have as big a name, so they might not get the line of students that others will. So you never know, who's just available hanging out, who you can talk to. It's a great way to build, like I mentioned, those relationships with employers. It is, I would say, a lower stress way of attending a career fair than when you're in sophomore, junior year, and you might feel more pressure to get an internship. But like I said, there are a bunch of companies that are, if my computer wasn't acting up, I would show you, but definitely on that website, there are a bunch of companies looking for freshmen. So I think variety of reasons. And then if some of you aren't sure of your major, it's also great to speak to companies, about what they do and just ask more, questions and practice. I think the more you practice your pitch and that communication with employers, the more comfortable you'll feel in the future. Yeah, so I encourage you to attend. It's Friday and Saturday. They're definitely the majority of employers are going to be there on Friday. I think there are a couple for Saturday, but Friday's the big day for it. So, and on that website, rpicareerfair.org, that you'll see a link to click on to register, and it'll take you to the Brazen platform, which is it's a platform that they're using for this virtual career fair. So, yeah, good questions. Thank you. Thank you. And I can definitely send that workshop along to you, Kristen, if you want to send that out as well.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to email that out. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
there's a few people in the room who would really be interested. um,
Definitely. Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time to
Of
hang out
course.
with us today, Lindsay. And just so everyone knows, we will get Lindsay slides and we will email them to you so you can get that higher statistics presentation, which is always really interesting. Now I'm going to turn the reins over to, I'm going to release Lindsay into her evening. Um,
Thank you.
See you, Lindsay.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm going to turn the reins over to my BFF and colleague, Karen Lewis, who will be kicking us off with the panelist portion. She will start with the short introductions, which each panelist will talk for about 2 minutes, and then we'll get into the real questions. So remember, as you guys have questions, don't hold on to them, just throw them into the chat room. And I will keep them all safe for the end of the presentation. We know that there's a good number of you who have class. You have your Civil 1200 class tonight. So, it's super awkward to leave things early, but please don't be shy about it. We want you to be good students, and I'm recording this. And if you ask me your questions before you leave today, I will make sure that they are asked, and our panelists will still give you a great answer. Um, because they're great panelists, not because I'm going to coerce them into giving great answers. Um, so, Karen, the reins are near yours.
Thank you, Kristen. I see a lot of familiar names on here. So I see a few environmentals. So welcome, and all undeclareds welcome. My name is Karen Lewis, and I advise I advise civil and mechanical engineers. So at the close of this presentation with these fabulous people, if environmental screams to you and this is something that you want to talk more about, I'm going to put my contact information out there for you to reach out to me because we should definitely have that discussion. I'm going to ask that all the panelists turn their cameras on, and for the sake of organization and time, I'm going to begin primarily with Roy and then go to John and then our student Arunima. So basically at this point, I just ask that you can introduce us to you and tell us a little bit about your name, where you work, where you're from and live now, and your degree and where you went to school. So I'll begin with you, Roy. Take it away.
Is there any other school? I went to RPI, class of 2001, and I'm actually an environmental engineer. Right now I'm a managing engineer at Barton in La Judas. If you can spell that, bonus points. We go by B&L because it's much easier. We're a consulting firm. I do a lot of water and wastewater treatment. I'm getting ready to start a really large water treatment plant down in Monticello, and I have one of the larger conveyance projects going on right now to provide water to 5 communities in the Mohawk Valley. So I'm a little more wastewater centric, but you'll find in this field we have a lot of remediation. We have water, wastewater. We have so many different areas you can go in, atmospheric, and we could talk more about this later on. I'm originally from Massachusetts. I came up to RPI, honestly, fell in love with the school, went early decision, and got in. So I didn't even really apply to anybody else. I was an RPI guy from the beginning. And now I live about 4 miles up the road, so I really never left. I live in Brunswick, a little more country than Troy, right on the outside. But this is a great area. You'll find a lot of environmental consultants around here. And one of the nice things about environmental is no matter where you go, there's a job. Every state has environmental needs. Every state has a need for environmental engineers. So it's not like you're dependent on a major manufacturer or something like that in your area. So that's really just a great part of this career field. I actually stumbled in here. I came in as an environmental, but I really wanted to go to law school, and I was going to be an environmental attorney. And then I got through this and went, "Wow, this is really fun." Got out, got a job, and never went back to law school. It was a lot of fun for me, and that's why I'm here, is to kind of tell you a little more about it, because I really do love what I do, and it's a great environment to be in. Was that everything you wanted, Karen?
I love it. Thank you. And John, I'm going to ask you the same. If you could tell us a little bit about you, where you work, where you're from and live now, and the degree and where you went to school, because you are not from RPI originally. So if you want to elaborate on that a little bit, thank you.
No problem. I show my camera on. Do you see me?
No, we can't see you, but we can hear you well. So that's part of it. So I say go
Okay.
with it and we'll roll.
Okay, and I'll work on it. My name is John Strang. I am a professional engineer. I went to Union College over in Schenectady. I started as a civil engineer candidate or in that program, and math beat me up. So I changed to environmental studies and took a lot of environmental courses, biology, etc. And halfway through, changed back to civil engineering because I did not want to go for a master's, and ended up graduating as a civil engineer. Union only has three at the time disciplines in engineering: electrical, mechanical, and civil. So there was no environmental engineer degree. And from college, um, with my all the environmental courses I had taken, I began to work for the Department of Environmental Conservation. Found myself out in Niagara Falls, working at the Love Canal Treatment Facility, and all the things that uh, that went on out in Niagara Falls. But I worked out of Albany, and I was there for 36 years. And then I retired, and now I work for the New York State Office of the State Comptroller. As an engineer, I work in the oil spill fund, and I help the lawyers and the auditors in the oil spill fund explain what is going on when they do oil spill cleanups. I'm their environmental, uh, they pick my brain basically as to what went on for the cleanup. And it's a part-time position. I work with a lot of DEC people because they're the ones who are overseeing the cleanup. They hire a lot of consultants, including Barton and LaJudas, and a number of consultants to do this work. So I read a lot of reports. I do not go out in the field. Back in my DEC days, I did a lot of field work. I was probably out in the field 25% of the time. And I found that very enjoyable as long as it wasn't too hot or freezing cold. I live in Troy. I was born in Rensselaer County, but I live in Troy, basically right next to campus. Um, and I know a number of professors at RPI, so I was asked to lend my voice here as someone who works as an environmental engineer.
Great. Thank you for being here, John. And I'm going to move on to our student, Arunima. Arunima, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself, your name and what year you are, where you're from and where you're living now if you're on campus or you're remote, and your degree, because it's a little different than just exclusively environmental, and just give us a little bit more information about you.
Yeah, so hi guys, my name is Arunima. I'm currently a sophomore at RPI, so I really was in the same position as you just last year. As you know, sophomore, that means I'm remote, so I am at home in Jersey, but I'm studying, I'm pursuing a BS in civil and environmental engineering. This past summer, I did a little bit of work at two different internships. They were both pretty brief, but I worked with a solar power company, and I also did a lot of reading with another group, a small student group based in California, about like climate science, climate policy, what it means to like what's going on in the world with climate change. Yes, there's a lot of information to go through. I won't be seeing you on campus this semester, but hopefully I will see you next semester in the spring.
Thank you. And we're missing you on campus this semester. So to begin, I'm going to begin with Roy. I know that you mentioned, Roy, that you were originally pursuing law school. And what was the clincher that made you decide to become an environmental engineer?
Okay, well, I was an environmental engineer all the way through. I was gonna go on, and instead of going to grad school for engineering, go on for law. But what I really enjoyed when I got out of school, um, I decided to, take a little time, go to work, get my PE, and it's just I found it was really fun because every day is different. I don't sit here and look at reports all day. I don't sit here and work on technology that's been the same old for 20 years. It's just exciting. I mean, one day, I remember when I first did my first year out, I designed a black walnut shell filter to remove PCBs out of water, and it is very rare. You don't see it too often. I just thought, like, this is cool. Who puts black walnut shells in a filter? And who came up with that? Who just decided one day to crush them up and see if they'd take PCBs? And every day just seemed exciting. I really like that my day is not the same. And I see the question is about what's a typical day like. I wish I could tell you. One day I could come in and have reports that I have to work on or that have to get reviewed at my level. When I was in entry level, if I was working a report or whatever, another day I could be out in the field taking measurements and trying to figure out how to make a sewer connect to another area or something. Um, I could be running a lot of calculations, hydraulic calculations. It's just I'm not somebody that likes doing the same old every day, and it just was exciting because it wasn't the same old. And even when I started my career, I was doing industrial wastewater, and now I'm mainly a drinking water person. I mean, my career has changed, so I wasn't doing, the day I graduated, I started doing drinking water, and I'm going to do that for the next 40 years. I had a lot of flexibility, and it's just a lot of excitement. I got to travel a little bit and go to different client sites, and it's just yeah, every day just excited me to come in, and it still does 20 years later, and that's why I'm here.
That's awesome. Thank you. John, I'm going to ask you the same question. And also to add on to that, because you graduated with your civil engineering degree, do you feel that there's a lot of overlap between the two majors of environmental and civil? John, are you there?
I don't think I see John in the oh, I see him in the room.
Yeah.
He's
Uh,
unmuted, so
Well,
I'll
maybe
send him
we'll
a
move.
message. Yeah, if you
Okay.
stay on.
Arunima, can you tell me, this was my segue to the dual, but that's okay. Can you tell me why you chose to do a dual rather than picking one specific major? And I know that you had switched majors previously, so you want to tell me a little bit about your pathway to how you got to where you are?
Yeah, so I actually started coming to RPI as a chemical engineer. My first semester, it became very clear that it really wasn't for me. I was enjoying like chem and everything, but just the whole career pathways weren't for me. There was a lot of like inside work and being in the lab. And I was actually more interested in field work, so that's how I started looking into environmental engineering. And after attending one of the events at the hub, I realized that like, oh, environmental engineering really interests me, but I want to do more. So I looked into civil engineering, and there's actually a lot of overlap between civil and environmental. Even just in like, it's very clear to see when you look at the 4-year plans that the hub provides from the for civil and environmental engineers. So a lot of classes are exactly the same. I think I only have to take around like 4 or 5 or 6 classes to get the civil dual. But yeah, I really wanted to do field work, and that's what interests me. But I'm continuing on with the dual because I want to gain as many technical skills as possible in my undergrad, and I think this is the best way to do that.
That's excellent. Thank you. So moving forward, I know that Roy was telling us a little bit about his day-to-day and how it changes, and that was Kismet's question. So thank you for that, Kismet. Um, I'm going to ask maybe what about your undergraduate, what your experience there looked like, because a lot of the students at this point are at the point where they're making those big decisions. And what did your undergrad program look like? Did you do internships and join professional groups and other curriculars? Maybe make some recommendations of organizations that you think might be helpful. And we'll start with Roy.
Sure. That was a long question. Trying to make sure I get the whole part of it there.
I'm
So,
happy to reread it if you want. Just tell
uh,
us about what you did as a student, what worked and what didn't.
so I had the concept when I first got to RPI. I want to try everything and see what I liked and didn't like, and I at least dabbled in going to all the clubs and seeing what they were and everything. And it was just I didn't join everything. Don't get me wrong. You only have so much time, and you don't want to fail. But I really tried to get out there and see. I did ambulance my first year, and then moved into ham radio club, and I eventually settled into ballroom dancing, and joined the team and went competing, which was kind of funny telling your family like I do ballroom dancing. It was like what? But yeah, so I enjoyed it. I really tried to make the most of it. For interns, I will tell you I was a little unique. My first few summers I didn't have available to me due to some military obligations, but I did take a year out of school and went on a co-op. So I did a full year co-op with General Electric Silicones, and I worked for them for the whole year. So I was a student, but I wasn't on campus. And then the next year, I talked to Dr. Kilduff and said, "Hey, they want to hire me part time. What do you think?" And I think one of the major things that probably changed my direction at RPI was, he sat down, did this wonderful spreadsheet analyzing, what it would do if I did, this and this. He goes, well, I would recommend up to 10 hours. I think it'll help you focus better. You'll get your scheduling better. You'll be able to plan better and it really helped me out a lot. So I did that for my last year, and my grades actually went up. You would think they'd go down because I was doing so much, but they went up. And they went up because he's right. I was better organized. I was better ready to attack my day, because if I didn't, I'd just get pummeled. So I had to plan better, and everything he promised me came true. And so that was kind of my time at RPI. And then when I graduated, I was one of the first ones to get a job offer because I had that experience and I had spent all that time working on the co-op. So it was a very highly recommended step to go out there and get experience. It makes you very valuable when you graduate.
Awesome, Roy. Thank you. And I see John on here. I see your face now, John. So
Yes,
welcome officially. Um,
yes,
we were just talking about undergraduate experience, and I know you were at Union, but did you get involved in clubs and do internship opportunities of any type that you might want to share with the group here?
yes. We had a grant through professors at Union regarding a lake over in Schenectady, Collins Lake, that they dredged, and I was part of a team that basically went to the lake and did a lot of sampling to see how the dredging affected the lake. And by doing that, I met a number of environmental people who one of them ran a firm, and I worked for him over a summer doing sampling at Saratoga Lake and helping him out So that was my opportunity to work in the field under environmental people. We did not have terms abroad for engineers when I was there, but right now Union has a lot of terms abroad for engineers to go and build small water systems and things like that in different countries. But we did not have that opportunity. I also worked uh, my first 2 summers from school. I was a nature director at a scout camp. So another reason I fell into the environmental field. I was teaching nature badges to Boy Scouts for 2 summers. Union's different. It's not even half the size of RPI. And there's not many master's programs. RPI masters, and you can go on to other things. So it's a different situation when I was in undergrad.
Hey, Karen, can I play off John for a minute here?
Sure,
So
absolutely.
I want to throw a plug in there. John made a good point of going, opportunities to go overseas and help people and everything. RPI, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago, started an Engineers Without Borders group. Union College actually had it first. And it's funny because I helped Union College with theirs, and then I came and helped RPI start theirs years later. So if you're interested in providing like clean drinking water to people, and you're like, I've always wanted to go on kind of like a mission style trip and help people out, and I really just would enjoy that, check out the Engineers Without Borders group at RPI, and that's an opportunity you might really enjoy. And because that's a good point John made, is a great way that environmentalists can help people out. I mean, drinking water is invaluable. You need it to live. And if you can help somebody out, what a rewarding experience coming out of school. And you'll gain experience in doing that. So just a plug for them.
Awesome, thank you. And Arunima, can you tell me about any extracurricular activities you might be involved in campus?
Yeah, so I'm actually very involved on campus. I'm involved with Society of Women Engineers, and actually, speaking of Engineers Without Borders, I'm involved with
Perfect.
them. So it's a lot. SWE did a lot for me my first semester. I joined first semester. I mostly was attending events then, professional and social. And up until now, just 1 year of being involved with them, I know a lot more about resumes and 60-second cells and just how to manage or handle myself in a professional environment. But they can also be pretty low key if you just want to have fun, like go for a game night or two. We have a couple events planned. For Engineers Without Borders, we have 3 projects going on right now. We have a project in Nicaragua, Panama, and I'm working on the Troy local project. The thing is, like this semester, we're not allowed to actually go into downtown Troy. So we're getting involved with the Vasuta Lounge or Regenerative Rensselaer. So if you haven't heard of them, maybe you've seen their garden behind Nason Hall. They like grow a bunch of like small little things you can eat. And they're also like pretty active in terms of sustainability on campus. So if you want to know more, like I'll send the links in the chat, but I definitely recommend it's one of the good sustainability groups on campus. Another group I'm not involved in but have heard a lot about, I'm like a part of their Discord, so I get like all their updates. It's pretty interesting. Is SSTF, Student Sustainability Task Force. They do a lot of like collaboration. They have virtual workshops, and they're right now working on figuring out what exactly the situation at RPI is in terms of what we're doing that's sustainable and what we're not doing. So I will send that information in the chat if you guys are interested. There are the link trees for SWE, EWB, and the Discord for Vasuta Lounge and SSTF.
Awesome. Thanks. All of that information from all 3 of you is really helpful. And I think the students are going to be heavily involved as a result of learning so much about the clubs and organizations. I'm going to talk a little bit more about undergrad, just because, a lot of times in the hub, we're asked specifically electives regarding Haas and free electives. What courses would be helpful as an environmental engineer, whether it be an economics course or computer science or anything like that. So would you want to answer that, Roy? And we'll go to John next.
Sure, and I'm actually going to loop it into answering another question here about significant information that I learned that I wish I'd known earlier. So you're, as an environmental engineer, you're not alone. We do a lot of work where we work with structural, we work with mechanical. I could be doing a pipeline down the, in fact, I am right now doing a pipeline down the side of a highway, and I'm working with transportation on how to protect the shoulders and everything. And the one thing I wish I'd known sooner from my free electives is, even though you're environmental, you're part of a bigger team. And knowing how that team, you don't have to be an expert in those areas, but understanding their lingo and kind of how they work helps you to work better with them. So if you've got free electives, I would recommend that you take a structural class. I'd recommend that you take, maybe a geotech class or a transportation class, something in the civil discipline, because environmental and civil really do cross a lot. I think environmentals tend to lean more into the treatment end, and civil is more into the conveyance end, but I do a lot of conveyance. It's not that a definitive, this is what you are because you got that degree. And understanding how to relate to those groups is really valuable. And the other thing is, if you decide to be a consultant, you're going to go get your PE at some point. And as a professional engineer, I know I'm an environmental by degree. I took the civil professional engineering exam because it was more related to what I was actively doing and what I really knew. And then I went and looked at the requirements and went, oh no, I've never taken this class. I've never taken this class because I wasn't a civil. And I went and taught myself how to do those. But I would recommend that you take some more civil classes. And that's the one lesson I kind of learned the hard way, that I would recommend you take your free electives in some of the civil stuff. It'll make you a more valuable team member when you get out.
Excellent.
Yes, I will follow up on what Roy said. So, being a civil, I did get exposed to taking structural class and taking transportation and geot- uh, geotech, along with materials and thermodynamics and chemistry. So there was a really broad discipline. And my civil senior courses, I focused on clean water, wastewater, hydraulics, and did not take the next structural, etc. But that background is really critical to understand when someone does a site work and then starts talking about a building, to know the basics as to putting in that building, understanding the soil so they can put the building someplace where it's going to stay. And then I'll make a plug for the Department of Environmental Conservation. One of the great things is you work with other engineers, obviously, but you work with geologists, you work with biologists, you work depending on where the site is. You're working with forest rangers. Depending on the spill, you're working with environmental conservation officers, which are basically state policemen within the environmental laws to follow or to make people follow. And these are people who just live their jobs. All the biologists, all the fishermen I know, fish biologists, they fish. All the forest rangers I know, they hunt. I mean, these people are so dedicated that their experience and their expertise was just great to work with, and really made the job very enjoyable. No day was the same. So I just uh, needed to say that.
Thank you. And Arunima, how do you feel about the coursework? Are there any classes that you've heard that are helpful or anything that you've experienced thus far? I know you're early in the curriculum, but um, what are your plans? You are going to be taking those structural courses as a dual, so I suspect that would be helpful. You want to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, so actually my next semester is pretty packed with fully structural, geotechnical, all those requirements. My schedule is pretty packed because of like my dual status. So for me, I don't have that many free electives, but I have heard and have experienced actually this semester I'm in differential equations and fluid mechanics, and we actually do need MATLAB to complete some of the homeworks. So I highly recommend taking like one programming class, one CS class. I think that can like really carry you just in like regular academia and even in the future.
Awesome, thank you. So let's see. We talked a little bit about the professional licensing. So I know that both John and Roy definitely support that. And I wanted to know from Arunima specifically, are you planning on pursuing any education beyond your bachelor's degree at this point? Are you undecided?
I mean, maybe my answer will change based on what my fellow panelists say, but at the moment, I'm not planning on it. I really want to get some hands-on work in the field and really like see how my education helps in the real world.
Okay, and Roy, do you recommend a master's degree? I know you recommend a professional engineer license. What are your thoughts on further education?
So I have a bachelor's degree only. I didn't go get the master's, and I mean, I'm not going to say there's not value in continuing your education. There's always value in continuing education. But I will say that you're not going to be handicapped if you come out with a bachelor's. Um, Even now, we hire a lot of bachelors and they get experience, and stick time is just as valuable as book time, in my opinion. Some people may dispute that. They're probably people that have masters. I think there's a lot to be said for experience and for working. And if you are out in the field working, you're gaining experience and there's value to it. On the professional engineering front, I think you really need to look at what you end up going to. I'm like, if you go to a General Electric as an environmental health and safety person or something, they're going to tell you they don't want you to get it because they don't want you to pay. They don't want to pay you for it. But if you're a consultant and you don't eventually get your PE, you're going to cap out pretty fast. You're not going to be able to move up and progress to a higher level in your career field because I mean, people hire us for our knowledge, and our knowledge comes with a stamp. And that's just the reality of it. So I would recommend that if you look in that way. But if you're worried about getting your bachelor's, I'll put it to you this way: my next step here is ownership. I'm at a management level, probably going up to the senior managing level this year, and then after that, I start the ownership path. And I have a bachelor's degree, so you're not going to be limited. I mean, I will, by the time I retire, be a part owner in this firm, and I have a bachelor's. So do not think that if you don't go further than bachelor's, you're in trouble.
That's great. Thank you. That's very helpful. And John, your thoughts?
So I just have a bachelor's and began with the department, and you go from a junior engineer to an assistant engineer after a year. And then the next level, you have to have your professional engineer's license. So that is the next step up in working for a state agency. Same with the Department of Transportation. So after I got the experience and wrote it up and sat for the exam, then I moved up to a senior engineer. Now it's called Professional Engineer 1. And there are some people who use their stamp. They're stamping buildings that the building will work, will stand. Everything is correct. It was built according to the plans that they wrote up. But I've not used my license in that way. And if I do use it outside of the agency, I need to, one, make sure that I get the stamp, and then it's on me that whatever I'm approving will work or will stand or things like that. A number of the engineers applying for a position with the agency, a number of the people do have their masters. The people hiring them like that, but that doesn't mean they're any more experienced than someone with a bachelor's. It's really, you can get hired with a bachelor's, and now it's up to you to do the work. Having another sheet of paper may look nice, but you've got to then go ahead and work with the people and get it done. A couple of courses, to go back to an earlier question, a couple of courses I wish I'd taken more of since I ended up an environmental engineer is I only took the one chemistry I had to take. I would have taken more chemistry in college because I had a learning curve for all the chemicals that we deal with in cleaning up hazardous waste sites. So I now know a lot of chemistry, but if I had known more before I started, that would have been helpful. So.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And that is one thing that I discuss with students that are interested in environmental engineering is chemistry. If you enjoy chemistry, then this is a major that's chemistry heavy. So that would be something that you would be inclined to enjoy. Um, so moving on, I think we're just going to talk general advice. Major specific or not, it doesn't really matter. But because you've been through the whole academic experience, I'm curious to know if you have advice for students that are considering an environmental major or just advice about being a student in general. I know it's kind of broad, but figured we'll just roll with it. You can start, Roy.
Okay, I'm gonna say this honestly. I'm not getting paid for a plug, and it's not because he's sitting on the call here. Um, Go talk to Dr. Kilduff and listen to him. Back when I was an environmental engineer, senior year, everybody went and had Dr. Komazar, who's not there anymore, as their advisor, except for me. I stayed with Dr. Kilduff because I had a great experience with him. He was honest. He was upfront. God, he loves spreadsheets. And he would make me these great spreadsheets of, break it down the time and this. I mean, he likes spreadsheets. But talk to him. I think he's a nice person to talk to that will just answer your questions. He's not a salesman. He's not gonna try to sell you where the best there is. He's going to answer your question honestly. And that's the one thing I'll say about him. So if you want to talk to anybody, talk to him. The other thing that I'll tell you about choosing your major and looking at careers, go see Lindsay. I still talk to my career advisor from RPI to this day. She has moved on and went to RIT. I know boo, but I still talk to her. And she was actually I kid you not, she was actually at my wedding many years ago. We have been good friends for years, and we built that bond as she was helping me look for jobs. And she has a lot of knowledge, and you should be tapping that. And if you're concerned or if you're a little stressed over saying, "Oh, I don't really know," she's an ear to listen to. So those are two things that I would tell you. Talk to them if you're not really sure. The third thing I'd tell you about the college experience. It's easy to be on campus and stress and everything. Um, get outside, go and take a hike in the Adirondacks, go and do something else, and you'll realize why environmental engineering is so great. I mean, I go out hiking and I see the water and, like the Erie Canal, I've gone hiking up and down, look at the Erie Canal, and now I'm doing a project to help protect the Erie Canal. And you really start to realize what we do for the environment. You like the hiking, you like all this stuff, and that starts with environmental engineers. If we weren't out there protecting the wastewater from getting into the water bodies, if we weren't out there giving people good drinking water, the environment as it wouldn't be there. And I think when you get out there and you clear your head a little bit, you'll start to appreciate what this career field is. It's not, I mean, look, I make a comfortable living. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's not about the money. We do this because we love the environment. We love what we do. And that's why we do it. And that's why I originally came into this career field and was going to go to law. It wasn't because I wanted to be rich and an attorney. It's because I wanted to protect the environment. And I found that I could do it in this avenue. But that'd be my third thing to you. Just get off campus and appreciate what's out there, and then you'll realize how much. If you get out there and you go hiking and you realize how much you really love the environment, you love what's out there, then maybe this is a good career field for you. If you just say, "Hey, it was a nice hike, no big deal," then maybe we're not for you. But I mean, I think I speak for all of us to say we came into this and we're staying in this for the right reasons, and that's what my advice to you.
That's awesome. And to your point too, I mean, Troy, it's 15 minutes to the mountains, like you can go in any direction and come across some really great landscapes. And John, I'm sure you feel similar, so I'll let you speak too.
Yes, so I'll go back to working for Department of Environmental Conservation. Everything we do is within New York State. So I've had the opportunity to see Long Island and Hudson Valley and Niagara Falls and Ogdensburg and Plattsburgh. Now, I've gone to these places because there's been things that needed to be cleaned up. So I've seen sort of the downside of what's been spilled or a chemical factory having a problem. But New York State's unbelievable. It is so different. The southern tier from Long Island, from New York City to out west, Rochester and Buffalo. Um, I totally agree with Roy on getting out. Um, I'm still involved in Boy Scouts. I teach one of the environmental badges. And when I sit with the boys and girls now, and we talk about this badge, the first thing I say is, where does your water come from? And if you live in Troy, if you live on campus, it comes from a reservoir, which is just not very far away out Route 7 from campus. It's Tom Hennick Reservoir. It's huge. But there are some people who live not near a water line. And so we start talking about drilling your own well. What does that mean? And then where does your waste go? Same thing. Do you have a leach field or does it go to the Rensselaer County Sewer District? And now, so also keep your eyes open. There's a small service station right near me, and they just pulled their old tanks, their old metal tanks that were leaking, and they've been putting in fiberglass tanks. And so I'm stopping by every day to see the installation of these tanks. You know, it's how technology has advanced. We're going from metal tanks to double lined fiberglass tanks. So as you take these courses, you'll see there's lots of things that get built, but we want to make sure they're environmentally safe. And that's where it gets to just keeping your eyes open. And I do agree. In fact, I'm going to go up Tabletop Mountain tomorrow, which is on a trail on the way to Mount Marcy. So get up to the Adirondacks if you get a chance.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And Arunima, I just want to know if you have any advice. Obviously, it would be peer advice. You're not too far ahead in the curriculum than the students sitting in front of us today, but um, if there's anything that you would recommend in your experience at this point.
Yeah, I think it's so easy as like a first year student to like get caught up in what other people are doing and like what they say they want to do. Like it seems like everyone has it all figured out. They know what they want to do exactly, like down to the year for the next 10 years. But it's like really fine. There's no pressure. If you're like really getting stressed out about like not knowing what your future is going to look like, definitely like what Roy said, reach out to your faculty. Your hub advisor is here to help you, your faculty advisor, like even just club members, your peers, maybe some upperclassmen. I feel like they can really help, but definitely don't get too stressed out. Like I know a couple of people who've changed their major as juniors, so there's no stress, there's no rush. You're in college for you, so take your time, figure out what you want to do it.
That's great. Thank you. And I don't really have a lot more questions. I really want to leave time for the students to ask questions, but I think the biggest thing that we could take away from here is professional license and talk to your advisors, both faculty and hub as students, right? Those are big parts about making the decisions as declaring your major and everything else. Do we have questions in the panel at this point, Kristen?
We have a couple questions. Roy was great in answering them, but I definitely would like to give Arunima and John the chance to answer them too.
Okay.
We do have a couple more minutes if you want to ask another question. It's
Well,
totally up to you, though.
I think maybe we could talk about mistakes. We're all guilty of them from time to time. So maybe if you guys can share maybe one mistake you made in college that you learned a ton from. I know it's kind of open-ended, so I'll give you a few minutes if you want to think about it. But I think learning from other people's mistakes is super helpful to prevent making them yourself. So whoever wants to start, feel free.
I love seeing both Roy and John laughing as they think about their
I am
answer.
watching it too.
You know, I honestly was kind of a boring college student. I wasn't a partier. I didn't do a lot of that stuff. I think the one thing that I really regret is I waited too long to really get hit over the head by Dr. Kilduff with the whole you got to focus your schedule, you got to focus. Because I think my problem when I first started was there was a lot to do and there's a lot of things, and I wasn't focusing and organizing them much. I was more of a freelancer, I fly by the seat of my pants. And when I started focusing, and when Dr. Kilduff got me doing the part time and at GE, and then getting my schedule and starting to actually plan and coordinate. I mean, I had my last 3 semesters were 4.0, and before that, I wasn't even close to a 4.0. So I wish that little whack across the head had come sooner. That's my honest truth to you. Start planning, start organizing. If you're not good at it, then find somebody who is and learn from them. There's a lot of kids on campus. There's a lot of resources, staff and faculty. Find somebody to help you, because that's the biggest mistake I made was I was not as focused. And I'm sure Dr. Kilduff would tell you, looking back at me, I was a different student at the end of my career than I was at the beginning. And I think everybody grows, but I wish I'd grown up a little sooner.
Well, so again, I started as a civil engineer and then took a break to go into environmental studies, but I didn't change my faculty advisor. He was a faculty advisor for both. So um, that continuity was good, because when I changed back, I ended up going fall, since trimester school, went fall, winter, spring, summer, because I had to catch up, and then spent a couple of terms taking 4 courses rather than just the 3 courses that Union has. So I really put myself under the gun, and I needed an extra term semester to graduate, because it was one fall that I needed 2 courses and they met at the same time. So it was physically impossible. So the maturity part, I agree with Roy. My last 2 years, I was such the better student, both doing the work and then getting the grades, than I was the first 2 years. I did join a fraternity. That was very good for me. I was steward of the house for 1 year, and talk about a job of handling a lot of money and feeding 30 fraternity brothers over a full year. I found that very challenging, but that was also, I really had to watch my time. I learned how to handle money. So that was a big help in my maturity at college.
Awesome. And what I think, Arunima, if you can weigh in, I mean, if you feel that you have anything to weigh in at this point.
Yeah, so I'm definitely still making those mistakes, and there will be more in the next couple of years, but I think what got me my first semester was thinking that like I had to do great in every single class, even though like it's really okay if you're not all that in every class you take. Like whichever ones you like the best and you think are most important to you, it's okay. It's okay to not be that 4.0 student. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And you know what else I think is kind of something that all three of you echoed was don't be hard on yourselves, and you will grow and evolve, but also use the resources available to you. I mean, as a hub advisor, we can't tell our students enough when you are struggling, when you have questions. The worst thing you can do is keep silent. So always reach out to people for support when there's any questions of changing majors and even course related stuff. So, um, okay. So are we doing more questions in the chat? I'm sorry, I can't see them.
That's
This is a quiet day. Nobody else has anything else to add? Come on.
Roy's been
Roy,
answering
you're
great
on top of
questions
it.
in the chat about the certifications, but I'd love to have you actually talk about this out loud, mostly because we are recording it, and also I don't know if everyone's looking at the chat, so I want to make sure that everyone hears your answer.
This is
So why don't we start?
2020. We don't talk anymore.
I know,
It's
it's
all
so
text.
sad. It's so sad. So to summarize the questions, they were How long did it take for you to get your professional engineering license? I know that different disciplines have different requirements and time limits. And then did you study for the FE and or PE, or was it solely from experience? So if we start there, that would be awesome.
So it took me just over 5 years to get the experience accepted from the state in order to sit for my professional engineer's exam. Going back to the FE exam, we did have training sessions because a number of us took it in our senior year at college, which I highly recommend because the exam gets to ask you questions in all sorts of disciplines. And when you're in school, that's when everything is really the freshest. So we did have review classes for the FE, and that was a big help. And then we could work together, and you can get sample exams and do the problems. For the professional engineer's exam, it's the same deal. You can get sample exams and do the work, do the problems. Want to know that you have enough background to do 8 problems. You have 4 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, and not go in and try to teach yourself how to solve a problem in an hour and get the problem done.
I got support going for you, John. So here's your PE practice problems book.
There you go.
You can get your NCEES books
Yep.
and the Bible of Environmental Engineering. This is your PE review book. Yes, it's not thin. I'm not going to lie to you.
Right.
But you will use it so much. It is a summary. It's like the Cliff Notes of Dr. Kilduff's classes.
Right.
It has a summary of a whole bunch of different things. A lot of the formulas that you use. It's a great reference that I use all the time. So it's not a wasted fund. And actually, a lot of companies will pay for you to get the book. So
Yes, and that's what Roy's alluding to. It's an open book exam. You can bring in any book you want, but obviously the reference you bring in is something that you've used, so you know where to find the information.
Awesome. Thank you. It looks like we have another book from Roy.
Dr. Kilduff, does this look familiar? I brought this in my PE exam. I just want to let you know I did use it after school.
I love it. All right, so I'm gonna work my way from our first questions down to our last questions. So one question is, I think it was pretty much answered, but I want to put it out there in case you had any additional thoughts, which was, what is a typical day like in your job? And I know, Roy, you very specifically answered that question. So John, do you want to give us a sample?
So at DEC, I ended up working in the spill program, and the day could be going along smoothly. You're reading reports, you're catching up on spills. When the phone rings and an 18-wheeler goes off the highway and rips open his diesel tanks, and you've got to go out and work with DOT and work with the Thruway Authority to shut down the road. So it was a phone call away. Your day could be completely changed. And that was if it happened during the day, working hours. If it happened at 2 in the morning, you're getting a call, you're going to get your spill truck and you're going out, at all hours. So spills was always you just didn't know. A phone call could really change your day.
Thank you. And then we have a question that's actually almost identical to Karen's question. I'm gonna ask it again to see if there's any add-ons. Funny enough, Karen, the student asked before you did, so I thought that was great. That's one of those great minds moments. Is there any significant information you learned that you wish you knew earlier that you could share with us in the form of tips? And I know when you guys answered, you really focused on your college career. How about with starting your actual career? The first, maybe even application process or going into the job. Is there anything you learned about that?
Is this a safe space? Can I be honest?
This is a safe space. It
So
is a
look,
recorded space, but it's a
I'm going to tell you the one thing that I learned the hard way, and a lot of young engineers do. Just going to throw it out there honestly. Shut up and listen. I think a lot of people come out thinking they own the world because they graduated with an engineering degree. They know a whole bunch more than the people who've been doing it for 30 years. And those people have a lot of knowledge to teach you. And if you come out with the attitude of I'm part of the team, I want to learn, I want to do great, then you're going to do well. If you come out with the attitude of I am great, I graduated from RPI, um, you're going to get hit pretty hard at some point in your career. And I am not ashamed to say that I did get hit hard at first, and I'm not the only one that has come out of college and had that. And I see it all the time, and I try to tell people, and they still make that mistake. You're part of the team, but you're not the team. So when you graduate, come out and listen and learn and try to become the best you can be. Don't come out thinking you're the best there is. That's my advice to you, honestly.
Thank you.
That's great. Um, the other thing is when you take an exam in college, you have a 2-hour exam and you got to get the problem done. When you get a problem in the working world, you have time. You have time to research it. You have time, as Roy said, to go to people and work as a team to get it done. You're not answering the question, writing it down on paper and running back. You've got time, so use your knowledge, use the books, and use your sources, both personal and written sources.
Thank you so much. Both really good answers, and definitely things that could probably be applied to while you're in school and co-ops or internships. And also, I noticed, Arunima, you just unmuted yourself.
Yes, I did. I know I don't have experience like Roy and John do, but in terms of finding internships, the way I did it, I like first, okay, if you don't have one already, definitely get a LinkedIn or a Handshake because for me these like really narrowed down my options and helped me figure out what I wanted to do. And then when I was actually searching for some opportunities later, knew how to filter it, like what I wanted to do, what other people had done, which sounded interesting to me. And so, like, I would first get a LinkedIn and a Handshake, and then when you're searching for opportunities, JobLink, Glassdoor, Indeed. Those were the 5 sites that I used.
Great, thank you. And if that's all new language for you guys, the resources that Arunima mentioned, first of all, you got Lindsay and you're going to get her email. Not only did she put it in the chat, but you can email her tomorrow when I send out some follow-up information. But also, Arunima was super kind to tell me that I had to copy her into my email to all of you. So if any of you want to really quickly reach out to Arunima to ask these questions, I'm sure that me saying don't be shy is not putting words in her mouth. All right, so there's 2 more questions, and both of these are actually very interesting questions. So the first one is, would you say a typical job in the environmental engineering field is more chemistry based or physics based? And I think came from when Karen mentioned that the environmental engineering field is curriculum is very chemistry heavy. So what do you guys think about that?
You want to lead it off, John? Since I've been taking all the first round of these.
Sure. Well, I saw Roy's answer saying it's mostly chemistry based. We have a um, hazardous waste. We have an 8-hour refresher when you work for the well, and Roy probably has this. He probably is 40-hour trained. Yep. And so you work on situations and being safe and wearing masks. When do you need to wear supply there? So we have an 8-hour refresher, and we use books that tell us the chemistry and especially about gases and the safe distances if something's on fire. Um, so that's chemistry, but also the physics really weighs in. What gases are heavier than air? What chemicals are heavier than water and will be sinkers or floaters? So chemistry still weighs in. Um, so I just had to say that. Or
Perfect.
excuse me, physics. Physics still weighs in heavily when you're talking about um, chemicals.
I'm liking this other question that came in. I think we can combine two of these. The
Wait, you're cutting me quick.
sorry, I was excited. I like this one.
I know. Well, no, there's John's asking some pretty good questions right now. So let me ask his first one first. Which is, what is your favorite part of problem or solving a problem? Maybe the concept, brainstorm, math, the chemistry, etc. And I will throw in there that Chip did say that his favorite part, or sorry, Dr. Kilduff, his favorite part was the spreadsheets, which I thought was a really great, funny answer. Okay, now I'll let you go, Rob.
If only you knew. Hey, so I want to combine that with his second one. During disasters, how much pressure is put on an engineer to help solve it? Um, the thing that I really relish, and I've done this for the military for 23 years. I do it for my job here. Like last year, we had some flooding that happened in the area, and a whole bunch of people's water lines got washed out. When the stream came up, it wiped out the edge of the road. The road goes down, the pipes go down, and it's a rush and a half. I got to tell you, my favorite part is not the plan stuff. I mean, I like doing plan treatment plant designs and all this stuff. I like the rush of the, oh crap, what just happened? We got to go fix it. And those kinds of things are really exciting. I mean, when you're getting a call from a client and they're sending you on your cell phone a picture of water lines going down the stream, it's a rush. I just got to be honest. It's a cool rush, and it's not something we do every day. I'm not going to missell you, but when it does happen, when something does happen, you have a flood or you have a major water line break, or something like that, and your client's calling you saying, "What do I do?" That's when it's cool, and everybody's just jumping in, and you're talking to other people. You might be calling another colleague and say, "Hey, I'm thinking that we should do this. What do you think?" And I'm thinking we need to try to isolate this here, and you work together with everybody. And when the road goes down, you're talking to the DOT, you're talking to your client, you're talking to other environmental people to figure out what to do to make sure everybody has safe drinking water. And when everybody comes together, I think most people would tell you they don't like the rush of that spontaneous. They like the planned. Everything's all the way it should be. But for me personally, I love that rush. It's the most fun that I have in this job, to be honest with you.
For DEC, we work hand in hand with the Department of Health. So when something like that happens, our first concern is safe drinking water. Do we need to provide bottled water, or the boiled water needs to happen because the pressure was so low that dirt or other things could have gotten into the water line. So DEC is all about safety, protecting the environment and including the people. So we work really closely with the Department of Health on that. And the second part, yes, absolutely, the repair or the replacement. But the first thing is the safety of the people.
Awesome answers. Thank you both. And Arunima, do you have anything to add about your favorite part of solving a problem? If you think about your internship or what you've started to do in classes?
I think most of my experience came from IEA, Intro to Engineering Analysis, which most of you engineers will probably have to take. But it was pretty satisfying, I think, just to write it all down, all the steps. It was pretty straightforward, but that's the extent of my experience.
Hey, everyone starts somewhere, right? We're in a room of people starting now. Awesome. So it is 7 o'clock. So technically, this is the ending of 2 nights industry hour. Next week, just as a reminder, is mechanical engineering. As always, I'm going to hang out a couple minutes to see if any of you have questions or want to chat about something. Everyone else, including our panelists, are totally welcome to close the door, head home. I smell someone making barbecue, so now I'm very hungry myself. But thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you so much to, of course, our students who took the time to hang out with us tonight. Um, totally grateful, full of gratitude. Just another wonderful Monday afternoon, evening. These are now in the evening.